serve as their dessert. Our next topic of conversation was the moment Yashin had changed the way he was holding my hand. When he did that, he told my parents he would protect me from now on no matter what, as if he'd been making a marriage proposal. Mom and Dad had gawped at him, stunned. This is a proposal, right? I'd been feeling anxious, having heard a story about myself that I didn't even remember. But hearing those words, during that moment, all my worries had flown out the window. I'd been overcome by sheer joy. A proposal, huh? But tying the knot right after high school would be way too soon. I guess for now we'll just continue dating, and once we start college we can start living together. Is that it? Oh, but if that's the case, then what kind of a place will we choose? An apartment. Since it's just the two of us, it's fine if it's small, but then maybe at night we have to sleep cuddled up. I'd completely zoned out, while my parents grinned at me. Once we had gotten started, there was no stopping us. The whole time until Yashin called me, the two of them had asked me all sorts of questions about what had happened since he and I started going out. It really did feel like an interrogation. They had just kept asking and asking. Honestly, though, I'd kind of liked getting the chance to brag about Yashin. I told them all about the time he'd saved me, the time we'd gone to buy his bento box together, and even when he'd stood up to Shizu-senpai for me. By the time I realized it, I'd talked my mouth off about every little thing I liked about him. The thing I didn't like, or at least the thing that dissatisfied me, was that he was still calling me Nanami-san. That really was the only thing. Perhaps doing so was hard for a boy like Yashin, but I really wanted him to call me by just my name, no honorifics attached. Or a pet name, maybe. But that might make it seem like we were too lovey-dovey with each other. I got off topic, but yeah. I'd talked on and on about all the things I liked about him, and that was the only thing I'd really talked about. I didn't share the most important thing. There was no way I could. After all, I'd confessed to him because of a dare. I hadn't been able to admit to my family that that was the reason we'd started dating. For some reason, though, my mom hadn't asked me anything about how we'd met or how we'd ended up getting together. It was almost unnatural, really. Anyway, I'd talked the whole time about what I liked about him, what I thought was cool about him, and how I wanted things to turn out. It was a little embarrassing, but I just kept opening my mouth and letting my compliments spill out. Every time I had, Sayer had squealed in delight. It was a rather surprising reaction from someone who'd said he seemed dull. She'd even started saying she wanted a boyfriend like that too, so I'd bluntly told her Yashin was mine. In return, she'd given me a blank stare. "Wan-chan, just how much do you like Yashin-san?" I just said I wanted a boyfriend as kind as him. I never said I wanted to go out with him. My little sister had been absolutely right. Even though I hadn't needed to, I had inadvertently and voluntarily shared unnecessary information about how I felt about him. If I'd only thought for a second, I could have figured out what she meant. Ugh, I'm too embarrassed. We're totally done talking about this. I'm gonna go take a bath. Just as I shot up in my anger, my dad arrived back from dropping off Yashin. Mom went to greet him at the door. After seeing her off, I recommenced my plan to bathe and then head off to bed. I also decided to message Hatsumi and Ayumi later to let them know how the date had gone, that it had gone really well. In fact, by that point, Sayer seemed to have gotten her fill of teasing me because she fluttered her hand to wave at me as I left. I sighed and made my way toward the bathroom, relieved to be free from their clutches. They really were a carefree bunch, being as unconcerned as they were about my embarrassment. But just as I finally got there, Mom poked her head out into the hallway and said something strange. "Nanami, I'm going to come visit you in your room later. Can we chat? Just the two of us." "Oh, yeah, sure. Chat with Mom. Just the two of us." Whenever Dad, Sayer, or I had anything on our minds, we would often talk with Mom about it one-on-one. It was basically an unspoken rule to talk through any problems that way. Even so, it was rare for my mom herself to initiate such a conversation. I bathed quickly and changed into my pajamas. Then I got back to Hatsumi and Ayumi on how the date had gone, both thanking and apologizing to them as I let them know that the alibi we'd planned had been for naught. As I was doing so, there came a knock on my door. It was Mom. "Army, can I come in?" "Yeah, of course. Come in." By the looks of it, Mom had taken a bath too. My mother was really very pretty. No, in fact, she was sensual. Even as a woman, I thought so. She was the kind of woman I wanted to be. I wanted to be just like her when I grew up, but then my partner would be no. Let's not think about that now. If I do, I'll turn all red and I won't be able to talk with Mom. Now in her pajamas, Mom sat down on my bed. She really did look kind of sexy, having come straight from her bath. I sat down next to her, just as I always did when I talked with her about something important. "This is rare, huh?" I asked. "It's not every day you say that you want to talk in my room, just the two of us." Yes. I suppose you're right about that." My mom turned to me with a smile that suggested she was somewhat troubled. I hadn't seen her wear an expression like this for a very long time. When had it last been? "An army, I'll come right out and ask." "Which one of you asked out whom? Did you ask Yashin out, or did he ask you out?" I was surprised by Mom's sudden question, the question that had been almost unnatural for her to avoid earlier, the question of who had confessed. Despite having recently bathed, I felt my body temperature plunge. Chills ate at me from all over. Why was Mom asking me this now? Well, I did, but I murmured hesitantly. I couldn't lie to my mom. Even if I did, she always knew because of some small gesture I'd made, the way I'd said something, or sometimes just that sheer feminine instinct she seemed to possess. I knew she was the one who'd raised us, but still, she was just too good. "My, that's strange. All the things you said about Yashin seemed to be from after you two started dating. If that's the case, why did you decide to ask him out?" My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't tell her it was because of a dare. Couldn't I? Why couldn't I tell her again? And I scared my mom'll be disappointed in me. No, right now, the person I don't want to let down is as I sat there, unable to gather my thoughts, my chilled body became enveloped in something warm. It was soft and comfortable, and just the smell alone soothed me. And from that touch, my body gradually regained its warmth. My mom was holding me close. "Nanarmi, when your dad was talking about you lying to us earlier, you weren't thinking about the lie you told us today. You were thinking of a different lie, weren't you?" How did you know?" "I'm your mother." "Of course I know, and I know that you're hurting because of it. Can you tell me what you've got bottled up? You know that I'm always on your side, so won't you share it with me?" At those words, tears welled up in my eyes. All the dark feelings I'd suppressed deep inside of me about lying to Yashin, deceiving him, and struggling to get him to like me while shoving my guilt away in a corner of my heart. This ugly heart of mine, as I'd smiled and shared with Hatsumi and Ayumi all the fun things I was doing every day, as I'd laughed and enjoyed all the time I was spending together with Yashin, it all came bursting out. "Mom, I am doing something horrible to Yashin. I asked him out because of a damn horrible so that's it. That's why all the things you liked about him were things from after you two started going out." Yes, yet I am. The tears just wouldn't stop. I buried my face in my mom's chest, wetting her pajamas with my tears. My mom continued to hold me. She listened to me, my sobs and words of regret, without saying a word. I just kept crying, groveling in the ugliness of my heart and the feelings I had for Yashin. "Nanarmi, you like Yashin now, though, don't you? You like him a lot?" Mom asked once I'd calmed down a bit. She rubbed my back gently, as if trying to get me to open my eyes. Her words struck me right on the mark. Yes, I like him. I like him so much. I only want to be with Yashin. This was the first time I'd admitted out loud I liked him, with no calculations or schemes. Up until this very moment, I'd never said it before. I'd been acting stubborn, saying I wouldn't fall for someone so easily. But I'd finally been able to say the words I'd never managed to say before. "What do you like about him?" "Yashin's. He's really kind. He looks out for me even when he's hurt. And even when I wasn't dressed the same as at school. He looked me right in the eyes and knew it was me. He even said I looked pretty back then, I see. He really is a kind boy. He always tells me what I want to hear. And he holds my hand when I'm feeling nervous. And he hugs me. And I feel safe just being with him. And it's always so much fun. He's not like the other boys. I don't feel uncomfortable or gross or scared when I'm with him. I just want to be with him." My mom held me closer. I let everything out as I rested against her, but the tears still didn't stop. When my crying finally subsided, and I really did feel like I had no more left in me to pour out. My mom moved her body away. "Come now, let's be done with this crying fest. Starting tomorrow, you'll do your best to like Yashin-kun even more." Having let me go, Mom clapped her hands together and smiled her usual cheerful smile. I turned my tear-stained face toward her and looked up at her, stunned. "You're not mad at me, Mom? Well, I'll have to scold all three of you together the next time Hansui-chan and Ayumi-chan come over. I know they were thinking just about your well-being, so I won't be too hard on them." Her words sent a chill down my spine. I knew she was only going to scold us, but when my mom got mad, it was no joke. In my heart, I apologized to Hatsumi and Ayumi. "I'm sorry, but I promise I'll be right there with the both of you. You know, Nanarmi, it doesn't matter how these things start. Even if it was for a dare, you already like Yashin-kun, and I know Yashin-kun likes you too. I'm already rooting for the two of you." Mom, with that, I knew I had to stop kidding myself. I really did like Yashin. I wanted to be with him forever. I didn't care if I was easy. I wouldn't lie about my feelings anymore. But you have to have some kind of closure. Mom brought her index finger to her lips and smiled bewitchingly. Her expression made me shiver. It was an expression I'd never seen on her before, the expression of a woman over that of a mother. "Closure." She pointed at me and, as if giving me a command, said, "For your 1-month anniversary, you have to tell Yashin-kun the truth and apologize to him. After that, you have to let him decide what he wants to do." I froze, inside and out. Until that point, my actions had been all for when he found out about the dare, but moving forward, things would be different. No matter how I acted in the end, I would have to tell him the truth. That scared me. That scared me a lot. But okay, Mom, I understand. For our 1-month anniversary, I'll tell Yashin everything and I'll apologize. And after that, I'll tell him that I like him. It won't be a lie this time. I'll tell him that I really, truly like him. I spoke my words of determination as if to convince myself. Seeing my reaction, my mom smiled happily. "In that case, until your 1-month anniversary, you'll spend your days serving Yashin-kun." Serving, isn't that a weird way to put it? It sounds kind of pervy, as if to make fun of me. My mom had returned to her usual self. I really couldn't keep up with her. SS serving Yashin? What am I supposed to do? My face felt hot just thinking about it. But even though Mom had suggested I fess up on our 1-month anniversary, Mom, don't you think I should apologize to him now? You're scared, aren't you? I mean, I don't think there'll be any problems, but it takes a while to become emotionally prepared. Take your time getting yourself together and use that time to warm up to him further. Just like she'd said at the beginning, Mom was on my side. That didn't mean she was going to be Yashin's enemy. It was as if she were on both of our sides. And you know how they say that whoever falls in love first is the loser. What that really means is that if you both fall in love, then you're both winners and you're both losers, just like your dad and me. And Mom was showing off again about how lovey-dovey she and Dad were. But listening to her, I couldn't help but feel that I, too, wanted to have a relationship with Yashin like that between her and Dad. That only got me blushing again. After all, it was too early to be thinking about marriage. Oh dear, were you imagining married life with Yashin-kun? I know I said to serve him, but do keep it PG, dear. Realizing she'd seen right through me again, I came to accept that I just couldn't beat my mom. "Yashin, starting tomorrow, I'm going to give it my all," I exclaimed to the one I loved, wiping away my tears. Only my mother could truly hear me, but I somehow felt my words would find their way to Yashin. "Oh my, calling him the one you love already. You sure are head over heels, Nanarmi. How in the world do you know what I'm thinking? I'm your mother, of course I know. Now then, I should probably go check up on the one I love too. Good night, dear." Blushing with a new kind of ferocity, I could only watch as my mother left the room. Chapter 4.5. Us on our date. After we'd finished watching the movie and talking about it in a nearby cafe, we found ourselves strolling hand in hand through the mall. Come to think of it, it was already lunchtime. I wondered what we should have. Nanami-san had told me yesterday that she'd had hamburgers. She'd even sent me a picture of her meal. "What would you like for lunch, Nanami-san?" It was a question that she usually asked me. Asking about lunch requests other than bento felt slightly different, but I still never thought I'd be the one asking the question. Lunch. Had you had hamburgers yesterday, right? You sent me a photo. No, I hadn't had one in a while, but it was so good. What did you have for lunch yesterday? I averted my gaze. Cup noodles, I answered sheepishly. It wasn't like I'd done something wrong per se, but I still felt a mysterious mix of guilt and inferiority well up inside of me. To my surprise, though, Nanami-san responded as though it were no big deal. Is that why you didn't tell me what you had to eat yesterday? Do guys like cup noodles? My dad sometimes eats them in secret too and gets yelled at by my mom. I suddenly felt a sense of camaraderie toward Nanami-san's father, despite not having met him yet. Yeah, my dad and I both liked cup noodles and ate them often, but each time we'd get yelled at by my mom. Discovering there were other similar families out there, I felt a mysterious sense of relief. Nanami-san's father, how? I wondered what kind of person he was, though I was pretty sure it would be a long time before I met him. When I finally did, I'd have to make sure I didn't do or say anything rude. But hang on, this wasn't the time to be thinking about the future. First, we had to figure out today's lunch. If you had hamburgers yesterday, how about we have spaghetti today? I heard there's a pretty good spaghetti place nearby. I said, Pastor Power, but aren't pastor places kind of expensive? Why don't we go somewhere a little bit more affordable? Well, you know, today's supposed to be a thank you for all you do for me every day, so I wanted to splurge a little and give back a bit. Feeling embarrassed that I'd said spaghetti instead of the obviously cooler pastor, I was trying my best to persuade her when Nanami-san cupped my face in her hands. Nanami-san? My cheeks burned at her sudden action, and all I managed to do was mumble her name. Look, Yashin, I really appreciate your gratitude and all, but you really don't need to worry about thanking me that much. Even though she wasn't holding my face tightly, I couldn't avert my gaze. Her eyebrows tilted downward as she smiled, as though speaking to a child. Somehow, though, that smile looked a little sad. She was probably feeling all sorts of conflicting emotions. But you want us to date on an equal footing, right? If that's the case, if I don't thank you for making lunch for me every day, I'd feel like it wasn't fair. Then let's go for something cheaper. I think I know the place you're talking about, and it's gonna cost more than 1,000 yen each. That's too expensive for a treat. Something cheaper then. What would you like to have? In the end, we'd ended up back at the same question. Nanami-san really was a thoughtful person. She seemed like the complete opposite of the manipulative type. If only I could get Peach-san to see this, she would probably stop worrying about Nanami-san so much. Nanami-san let go of my cheeks as she contemplated my question. I felt sad to lose her warm, soft hands on my face, but I studied her all the same as she thought. Just as I was about to tell her that she didn't need to think so hard, she said something unexpected. I think I just cracked the code of why some men say that they'd be happy to eat anything. Wait a minute. I thought anything was the most troublesome answer. Surprised, I'd responded to her comment with a quip and a light-hearted smile. More surprising, though, was my own cheeky response, which I never would have managed just a short while ago. I glanced over to see if I'd annoyed her, but Nanami-san didn't seem displeased at all. Instead, she looked up and said rather falteringly, you know, what was she going to say? Maybe she had so many different things she wanted to try that she was taking care not to bother me with all of her requests. As it turned out, that wasn't the issue at all. If I'm eating with you, pretty much anything is gonna be delicious, right? She said, clasping her hands together with noticeably flushed cheeks. Having been caught unawares, I was completely dumbstruck. I had no idea that the word anything could take on such a beautiful meaning. I'd been smacked in the face by the sweetest, most satisfying attack I could have asked for. Seriously, it felt like I'd been hit on the back of my head with full force. That was an illusion, of course, but how else could I describe it? How can you be saying something like that on our very first date? Nanami-san? Yashin, what's wrong? Without realizing it, I'd crumpled to the ground and hidden my face in my hands. My face felt so hot, I wasn't confident I'd be able to face her. Nanami-san, remember when you once asked me if I dated anyone before? Yeah. Well, is this really the first date you've ever been on? Because you're saying things like that make me think I'm gonna lose it. Like I'm having a heart attack. Today, we seemed to have switched positions in terms of who asked the questions and who answered them, but she just tilted her head quizzically and stared at me. This is definitely my first date. Though I guess if you're counting girl dates, Ben, it's not my first, but with a boy, it's totally my first. Do you say totally destructive things when you're around Hasumi and Ayumi? Stuff like anything is gonna be delicious. Well, yeah, if you're with friends. So it seemed Nanami-san had finally realized the meaning of her own words, and she started blushing just like me. After being silent for a while, she gathered her courage and puffed out her chest defiantly. Well, yeah, it's true. Food always tastes good if you're eating with someone else, she declared with a beet red face. As for me, I used to think that food tasted the same whether I ate by myself or with other people. But yeah, you're absolutely right. This time I had to agree with her. I learned in just this past week how delicious a meal could be when you ate with two people. Even though this was just a dare, and Armi-san had taught me what I'd been missing. Geez, you're totally smirking at me. You're making fun of me, aren't you? Not at all. You've got me all wrong. If I'm eating with you, Nanami-san, then I'm sure anything would taste delicious. Nanami-san pouted childishly. I felt bad that I'd made her misunderstand, but she even looked cute with a face like that. In just one day, I felt like I'd seen so many different sides to her. Oh, Bat, I wanna eat that, she exclaimed out of the blue. What's that? I asked. As if having come to a decision, Nanami-san raised her index finger in the air. That she made up her mind. I had every intention of granting whatever wish came out of her mouth, but what she said next was, again, unexpected. Juban, I wanna go to a Juban place. I've never been. Juban, isn't that like the last place you're supposed to take a girl on a date to eat beef and rice? I'm pretty sure I've seen someone say that on some TV show before. From what I could remember, the story had been of some girl saying that her boyfriend took her to a Judan place on their first date, and she'd been too shocked to believe it. But wait a minute, what if the girlfriend was the one saying she wanted to eat it? Judan, how? We can have something a little nicer, but are you sure that's what you want? I've never been with the girls, so I'd always wanted to try it. Wait, don't tell me you've never been either. Oh, no. They are good places to go alone, so I've tried a few different ones. Does that mean that I'm the first person to go with you? I had to think about that for a moment. Admittedly, this was my very first time going to a Judan place with another person. In fact, this was probably my very first time eating out with someone, period. Yeah, I think you are the first. I mean, I've never been on a date before, so I guess everything about today is a first. Going to a place like this is a first for me. I'm so stoked that I get to share this first with you. I'm happy about that too, but are you really sure that's what you want to eat? Yes. I've already been to the pastor place with Hatsumi and that lot, so today, let's experience something new together. With that, Nanami-san took my hand and started walking. I was slightly perplexed by her happy expression. I mean, was Judum really something to get that excited about? Well, as long as she was happy, that was all that mattered. Okay, let's have fun with this, I said. Exactly. Oh, next time I want to try a ramen place. I've never been to one of those either, so you've got her help find us a good one. What surprised me this time wasn't her meal, but rather that she was already planning our second date. Instead of this being our first and last date, was Nanami-san willing to go on another date with me? I couldn't tell just by scanning her cheerful expression, but if there really was going to be a next time, I couldn't be happier about it. And during that next time, I wanted her to have an even better time. So I said to her, then yes, I'll check a few places out for sure. So will you go on another date with me? Of course. Nor my boyfriend. I'd love to go on another date with you. Was I overthinking it to say that she almost sounded as if she were trying to convince herself? Was it okay for me to believe what she'd said? As I thought it over, I decided to start heading toward the nearest Juden place, the warmth of her hand in mine. Right then and there, I made a decision in my heart to try my best to have her enjoy our next date even more. And so, that was all that had happened at lunch on our first date. Afterward, to those who decided to pick up this book, it's nice to meet you. Anyuishi. As mentioned in my author profile, I'm in my late 30s, and next January I'll finally be turning 40 years old. I wasn't expecting to be publishing my own book so far on in life. Challenging myself with something new has been very exciting. I began posting this work on March 7, 2020, and concluded the main storyline in May of the same year. After that, I began posting updates with side stories. It was in March of this year, in 2021, that I was contacted regarding the novelization of this work. By then, it had been a year since I first posted it. At the time, my ranking on the site wasn't terribly high, so it really felt like a bolt from the blue. I still remember raising my fist in the air and shouting out loud in my room when I heard the news. To have been able to release this work, which had already been completed in novel form, is all thanks to the readers who've been supporting it this whole time. From that point on, my days became full of chaos and turmoil, but they also were tremendous amounts of fun. I cannot thank Kobayashi-san of the H.J. Bunko editorial department enough for first discovering this work. I don't think I'll ever be able to look them in the eye, given that they now know all about my various fetishes. And to Kaguchi-Saku-sensei, thank you so much for the beautiful illustrations for this volume. I must have given you so much trouble since I hadn't done any character design for the novel. I was grinning from ear to ear every time I received an illustration, and I spent days resisting the urge to share it with the whole world. When I finally announced that the work was being novelized, those who supported me were as excited about it as I was. All the warm words I received truly brought tears to my eyes. It had been a long time since I cried like that. I'd like to take this moment to express both my gratitude and my condolences to all those who were involved in the making of this book in their various ways. The book includes many revisions and additions compared to the web version. I hope that you were able to enjoy it. If so, I couldn't be happier. Regardless of whether you know what happens next in these two lovebirds' relationship or whether you're following along for the first time, I hope that you enjoy watching over them. I've actually written a few bonus stories, including some that you can read only on the Novel Up Plus website. If you enjoyed this work, I'd appreciate it if you come take a look. There were also many side stories I couldn't include, so I'd like to release them somewhere sometime too. I'll do my best to sniff out if there are any good ways of doing so. With gratitude, from Yuichi, who has written so much of the main text that they were barely able to manage writing this afterward. I look forward to seeing you in the next volume. Yuichi, December 2021. Bonus short stories. The Gyaru speak girl to girl. Right after arriving at school with Yashin, I'd ended up having to part with him. My two best friends, Hatsumi and Ayumi, were hanging around waiting for us. I really wanted to spend more time with Yashin, but I'd already doomed myself by telling my friends I'd spill what had happened with the confession yesterday. You reap what you sow. Lesson learned. With my fate already decided, I let them pull me aside and took a moment to explain everything. However, seriously, I think I'm gonna cry. Our Nanarme's I can barely hold it together. I really am gonna cry. Like, I'm already tearing up, Hatsumi mumbled through withheld sobs. I'm right there with you. I'm so moved. Before now, I couldn't even picture them coming to school holding hands and stuff. Or I should have taken a picture, Ayumi whimpered. The two of them were acting all dramatic and pretending to cry. Wait, were they actually crying? Was I making them worry that much? I was totally thrown for a loop. The three of us were talking in one of the empty classrooms near our own. Since we'd arrived at school so early, we had more than enough time to kill, but I hadn't expected them to react like this. Their blubbering and wailing left me feeling kinder bad for wanting to get back to Yashin. Wait, they were emotional, right? It wasn't that I didn't want to talk to my friends. I was just worried about Yashin getting mobbed by everyone in the class because we'd left him alone too long, especially since he and I had made such an alarming entrance. Until yesterday, I'd only thought of Yashin as a quiet boy in my class. For him to walk into that very class holding hands with someone would surely attract a lot of attention. I couldn't help but be concerned, leaving him by himself like that. But this was all my fault, wasn't it? Oh geez. If I'd just thought for a moment, I would have been able to figure out that walking into class like that would have made a scene. I'd just gotten so carried away, damn it. As I sat there feeling conflicted, Hatsumi and Ayumi were busy chattering about how we had to celebrate the momentous occasion. "You guys are making too big of a deal out of this. All we did was hold hands. Like hell we are," Hatsumi cried. "We're talking about someone who's always kept her distance around guys, and now you're holding hands with one. Of course we'd be emotional. It was the most touching thing we'd seen in years, even more touching than a movie." So they really were moved. I'd thought they were just making fun of me. Even Ayumi was nodding in agreement. Wait, seriously, just moments ago, they'd launched a full interrogation, but now they were overcome with emotion. I hadn't realized I was making them worry about me that much. They often told me I was way too easily affected by people, but I felt like I could say the same for them right now. I mean, really, all we'd done was hold hands. But I guess it couldn't be helped before then. I really had disliked being around guys. Anyway, for now, let's get back to Yashin. "I want to introduce you both to him," I said. "Wow, you're seriously into him?" "Huh?" Ayumi asked. She looked surprised, which was rare for her and her usually smiling face. "You totally are. Wait, didn't you only ask him out yesterday?" "No, I was just worried about him. It isn't like I'm all into him, or right. It's concern that I'm feeling. And besides, I can't leave my boyfriend all alone on the first day. I should be with him. I couldn't bring myself to look my friends in the face as I made my lame excuse. Yeah, that's right. He's my boyfriend, so it would be weird if I neglected him. I'm not seriously into him yet, or anything like that. Really, I'm not. But how could I think something like that when I waited for him at the station so early this morning? My face isn't super red or anything, is it?" I looked at my friends out of the corner of my eye. Of course, they were grinning like crazy, their expressions a mix of endearment and amusement. The two brought their faces closer to one another's and began to whisper in perfectly audible voices. "She seems a bit desperate, doesn't she, Ayumi-san?" "Sure does indeed. In fact, she seems to be struggling quite a bit. Hatsumi-san, what are you two talking about?" "Just when I'd thought they cared, she's even calling him by his name," Ayumi squealed. "Isn't this the first time she's done that? She's only ever called guys by their surnames." "Yeah, seriously," Hatsumi said, pumping her fist for some reason. "It feels kinder special. Everyone's gonna flip." Arbai couldn't argue with that one. I was feeling slightly embarrassed, but what Hatsumi said next cleared my head immediately. Like, ignoring the dare, "Why don't you guys just keep going out?" Hatsumi had the best intentions, but her words stabbed my heart nonetheless. They forced me to come face to face with the fact that I was only going out with Yashin because of a dare, that even though it was just a dare, I had chosen to act on it, and that I was deceiving Yashin. Seeing my expression, Hatsumi knitted her brows in concern. "Sorry, that was insensitive of me. I just hadn't seen it coming, you turning up to school with him, holding hands and stuff, so I got carried away. Yeah, I had no idea that you could even make that kind of expression when you were with a guy. I'm sorry," Ayumi added. She, too, sounded more serious than usual, apologizing to me directly rather than drawing out her words. "No, it's my fault, not yours. If I'd really wanted to, I could have refused to go along with it. If I genuinely hadn't wanted to do it, neither Hatsumi nor Ayumi would have made me go through with it. That's why it wasn't their fault. I wanted to tell them that too, but they spoke before I could say anything. If Miss Yumai ever finds out, you can blame it all on us," Hatsumi said sincerely. "We won't make any excuses, and we'll be the ones to take the punishment." Ayumi nodded. "Yeah, I'll apologize with you. I'll say it was all on us, and that you didn't do anything wrong." "What are you saying?" I asked. "We got ourselves into this together, so if any of us were to get punished, we'd all get punished together too. Even if I told them I was the one at fault, my friends would never have accepted it, so in the end, I made it the problem of all three of us." I forced myself to smile. My friends smiled sadly back at me. "That's true. If Miss Yumai asks us to make up for it, we'll all do whatever it takes. For real, we'll even accept sexual favors." "Wait, what?" "Yashin isn't like that." And just like that, the sadness around us dissipated. How rude can they be? Besides, they both already had boyfriends, so anything sexual would be a no-go. But sexual favors, Ha, if he were to ask, I wonder what Yashin would. No, no, no! Well then, I said, clapping my hands together. The sound echoed through the empty classroom, and my two friends returned to their usual smiles. Now that's all out of the way, tell me how we can be more like a real couple. I don't know anything about stuff like that. What I did today is really the best I had. Let's see, I guess going on a date is the classic way to go, a first date and a first kiss. Wait a minute. A first date is fine, but isn't it way too early for kissing? Then how about more than a kiss? I said it's too early. Are you even listening to me? And when you say more than a kiss, what's more than a kiss? I imagined what she might be thinking about and immediately turned bright red. I mean, I was a high schooler, so I wasn't completely clueless, but all my knowledge was based in theory. I just knew about stuff like that from articles in magazines and stuff. And kissing on a first date, I didn't even know how to go about getting a first date. Was I supposed to ask after school? Did I have to ask him? I mean, if the opportunity presented itself, then sure, but if not, then it was gonna be kinda hard. And when it came to kissing or doing anything more than that, wait, more than a kiss. Have these two done it already? Have the sexual urges of young people already got the better of the two of them? As I sat there agonizing over my friend's sexual status, Hatsumi and Ayumi turned their backs toward me. What's with that reaction? A strange silence followed for several seconds, and then, with their backs still turned, the pair spoke up somewhat guiltily. Nar, actually, I've only kissed my boyfriend, came Hatsumi's hushed voice. Me too, Ayumi said. He won't do anything more than that, even though I've asked him. And I'm always up for it, you know. Ayumi's comment was a little concerning, but I ignored the topic for the time being. Was that so? If Hatsumi and Ayumi hadn't made it past kissing, then not managing to do so myself shouldn't be a problem. I mean, those two had been with their boyfriends for a good long while now, and even they'd only gotten as far as kissing, so it couldn't be helped that I wasn't ready yet. All at once, I calmed down and started to feel more at ease. Maybe my friends felt the same way, because they both seemed lost in their own thoughts. The first to break the silence was Ayumi. Other than that, you should eat lunch together. Lunch at school. Eat lunch with him? Is that a girlfriend-wife thing to do? No. Hatsumi and I haven't been able to before, so it'd be nice if you got a chance to. Oh, but you got her tell us all about it afterwards. Hatsumi nodded in agreement. I see, so eating lunch with your boyfriend is something girlfriends do. Then, I guess, I made the right decision. Oh, good. I'm glad. That's perfect, cause I actually made Yashin lunch as a thank you for what he did for me yesterday. I was gonna tell him about it later. It wasn't like I'd assumed my actions would be deemed appropriate, but I did feel a little glad that I'd been bold enough to try something out. So I can do girlfriend-wife things. Good job, me, for thinking about this yesterday. As I gave myself a mental pat on the back, I noticed my friends looking at me strangely. Tell him later. They tilted their heads in unison and gave me a questioning look. Did I say something weird? Was making our lunch myself a bit too much? Well, I get it. Maybe there are things he doesn't like to eat. I already know what Hasumi and Ayumi like, so I made it thinking it'd be no different, but maybe it'll end up being a bother for him in army, Hasumi said, still staring at me in that strange way. When we get back to the classroom, go straight up to Miss Yumai and tell him you brought him lunch. As in, you should have told him beforehand. What are you gonna do if he already brought his own lunch? Oh, damn, that was true. Why hadn't I thought of it? I'd been having so much fun making it that I neglected to consider the possibility. Of course, you'd usually check first whether it was okay to bring them lunch. If Yashin had brought his own bento from home, my gesture would be totally meaningless. But hold up, isn't it a bit much to bring a handmade lunch so early on in the relationship? Oh no. Did I maybe screw up? Wow, Ayumi whispered with her sigh, making me turn slightly blue with worry. To think Nanarmi would make such a rudimentary error. It's actually kind of impressive. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. I didn't mean anything by it. I just wanted to thank him for yesterday. I didn't even know who my excuses were for. More importantly, I had to hurry back so that I could check up on Yashin. He won't reject the idea, will he? He doesn't dislike handmade food, right? As we made our way back to our classroom, Hasumi broke into a grin and, with her hands linked behind her back, called out to me, "Hey, so I thought of something that's couple-ish that you can do. It's related to that bento." What is it?" "When you get a chance, you should try feeding him. You know, with your own chopsticks, like we sometimes do," Hasumi said with a wink. I shrieked. "I can't possibly do that. Feed him myself. You can't drop something like that on me." Now my mind was spinning with the idea, but my friends ignored my protests, moving on to discuss their own lunch plans. "Man, if Nanarmi's eating lunch with Miss Sumai, what are we gonna do? Maybe I should ask Oniitan to come pick me up so that we can eat lunch together too. Oh, that's an idea. Maybe I'll call up my brother too. Do you think he'll come? You two aren't listening to me." In the end, I joined in their conversation, but my head was filled with anxiety. Will Yashin like the bento? Will he say it tastes good? I wondered. It wouldn't be long before I found out the answers to both those questions. On the way home from our date, I know they say time flies when you're having fun, but I've never thought that to be truer than I do today. Gosh, today was so much fun. Did you have fun, Yashin? Yeah, I think it was the first time in my life that I've had so much fun. The first time in your life. Isn't that a bit too dramatic? It might have sounded dramatic to her, but I couldn't help feeling that way. Nanarmi-san laughed, seemingly amused. I mean, I got to go on a date with my very first girlfriend. As in, I got to go on a date with you, so of course it was the most fun I've ever had. Really. No matter how much she doubted me, this was how I truly felt. Though her response suggested suspicion, she skipped a few steps ahead of me, a satisfied smile on her face. As I was beginning to feel a touch of loneliness from the fact that her hand had left mine, Nanarmi-san turned to face me again. This was my first date, too, and it was tons of fun. Honest. Both her words and her expression seemed to be brimming with genuine joy. Those words spoken with emphasis, with our hands deliberately unlinked, reverberated in my heart. She then reached her hand out to me again, and so I took it in mine, and we recommenced walking side by side. Nanarmi-san had been reluctant to let me walk her back, but in the end, it was the right decision. After all, it was continuing the fun we'd been having. A date isn't over until you accompany the girl back home. I wasn't sure if there really were such a rule, but that was the thought floating around in my head. A journey isn't over until you arrive back home. Perhaps that wasn't the same thing, but at least both a date and a journey were meant to be fun. All we were doing was walking next to each other, but even that seemed like an irreplaceable moment. But maybe saying it's the most fun we've had is also a bit too dramatic. I mean, we're probably gonna have more fun in the future, right? Nanarmi-san asked. I see, so we've got new records to set. Wow, that's a lot of pressure. I'll have to make sure you have fun on our next date, too. What are you saying? I'm gonna work hard to make sure you have fun as well. So we're even. So, just how much fun did you have today? I asked. Nanarmi-san turned her gaze toward the ground, making me immediately panic that she actually hadn't enjoyed herself. However, before I could form such an anxious thought, Nanami-san looked up in surprise. Wow, come to think of it, it might have been the most fun I've had in my life, too, she said with a smile, that kind, joyful smile of hers like a flower in full bloom. I guess we're the same after all. I wasn't sure if she genuinely thought that way, but I made up my mind to believe her. I wanted to believe her. I hated that awful tinge of suspicion I still felt, but for now I responded with a light-hearted remark so as not to let that feeling show through. Then we'll have to work hard to set a new record. We smiled as we strolled along hand in hand, so elated that it almost felt like we were setting off for a date rather than heading home from one. What should we do for our next date? See another movie? Chill out at home? Oh, it would be cool to have a stay-at-home date night so that we can watch the other movies in the series, I suggested. Nanami-san looked at me quizzically. Does that count as a date too? The other movies in the series? Huh. It would be nice to watch those together. As I stood there wondering how the phrase stay-at-home date had managed to add itself to my lexicon, Nanami-san explained that she didn't really know how they worked either, but that she'd heard about her friends often doing it. I'll think of some fun ideas for our next date too. Maybe I should invite you next time, she said. This was supposed to be thanks for all the lunches you've been making me, so I almost feel bad that I had so much fun. Then how about you make me lunch sometime? Then as thanks for that I can. Wait, do you even cook? Not really, I'm not even sure I can fry an egg. Nanarmi-san seemed shocked, staring at me with her mouth hanging open. But you can't underestimate the difficulty of frying an egg. For someone like me who had never really cooked, even that was a challenge. If you thought it was just about cracking an egg into a hot pan, you'd be wrong. But telling that to Nanami-san might be like preaching to the choir. Nanami-san, however, was giggling to herself happily. It wasn't that she was ridiculing me, she just seemed to be having fun. Then, maybe during our stay-home date, I can teach you how to cook. Or man, I might end up making something really weird. You'll be fine, I'll be teaching you everything step by step. It's all about tucking in your fingers like a cat paw. Nanami-san balled up one of her hands into a soft fist and struck a cat-like pose. She looked so cute doing that I couldn't help wanting to keep walking with her forever, just the two of us. But all good things come to an end. Does the time to part feel more sad and lonely the longer the time of joy preceding it? This, too, was a new discovery. We are almost there, huh? Nanami-san said. Yeah, it really was loads of fun. Would you, go out on another date with me? I asked, just to make sure. I had to admit, a part of me worried that this would be our first and final date, but Nanami-san hit me with another beautiful smile. Of course, she said. When I saw that smile, all the worries pent up inside of me seemed to melt away in an instant, and an uncharacteristic thought flashed through my mind. I hope we'll be able to make even more happy memories when we go on our next date together. At the table together in the last several days, I had come to feel strongly about the importance of eating with someone. Until now, I had only seen meals as a way to fill my stomach, so I hadn't really attached a sense of joy to eating. Perhaps this was my parents' fault for working so much that I was often left eating alone. I knew it was a childish reason, but at least now I was able to admit the possibility because what's wrong? Yashin, oh, was the grated bacon too spicy? Nanami-san asked, her voice full of concern. This was the reason. At that very moment, I was enjoying dinner at home with her. No, it's not spicy at all. It actually tastes kind of sweet. I like it. Why do you ask? I dunno. I guess you looked like you were tearing up. Sometimes when something's spicy you can get all teary-eyed. Don't you? Did I really look like that? Feeling embarrassed, I rubbed my eyes and found that they were slightly wet. I think I was just moved by the fact I was eating a freshly cooked meal made by you. Even if I was just trying to change the subject, that was one hell of a cheesy remark. Still, I couldn't come up with a better excuse for looking like I was about to cry. But Nanami-san seemed to like what she'd heard, because her face lit up in response. Isn't that a bit over the top? Nashin, if this is all it takes to make you cry, then I'll cook for you every day. That'd be amazing. I'd be one lucky guy to be able to eat lunch and dinner made by you every day. Nanami-san laughed. Wow, that sounded just like a marriage proposal right there. Her sentence trailed away as we both blushed, and she quickly stuffed her mouth with a piece of gyoza. I followed suit, and we proceeded to eat in silence, but suddenly, as if she just couldn't stand it, Nanami-san burst out laughing. Her laughter was pretty contagious, and I found myself laughing along with her. Geez, Yashin, you can't just leave me hanging like that. I'm so embarrassed. I didn't think you'd bring up proposing of all things, so you're not the only one. With that, the air between us lost its tension, and the atmosphere returned to normal. Thank goodness so. Crap. I was so focused on eating, I finished my rice already. Maybe I should go get seconds. Just then, Nanami-san extended her hand toward me. Here, I'll serve you some. Do you want a large helping? About the same as before? Oh, yeah, about the same as last time's good. I reflexively handed my bowl to Nanami-san. Still smiling, she took it from me and headed toward the rice cooker. The moment she turned her back, I stood up so swiftly my chair toppled over, falling with a clatter to the floor. Shocked, Nanami-san turned to look at me. Gosh, you scared me. What happened? No, nothing. It was nothing. Failing to explain myself, I sat back down in my chair. Nanami-san tilted her head in bewilderment, but then continued to serve me my rice. It took all the strength I could muster to maintain my composure during these moments. What in the world was I trying to do just now? I'd been about to rush up to her and embrace her from behind. To bring her to my house and do such a thing would make it seem light. That had been my intention from the beginning. I was the worst. Just being around guys made her all uncomfortable, so why the hell was I trying to scare her? Here you go. Thanks. Unaware of my inner turmoil, Nanami-san cheerfully handed me my bowl. That one small gesture filled me with happiness despite my withheld guilt over witnessing such a beautiful expression. You know, this feels really nice, Nanami-san said. What do you mean? I never thought I'd be cooking for my boyfriend like this. Maybe this is what happiness feels like. I paused for a moment before agreeing with her. Yeah, maybe it is. Just for this moment, it's okay for me to imagine she's actually my girlfriend, right? And I kinda hope we can continue being together just like this. Like a cat, that day, at lunch, the rooftop was filled with a certain peacefulness. It was pleasantly sunny up there, and Nanami-san was snuggling close to me. Both the weather and her body were blessing me with a comfortable warmth. Nanami-san must have felt the same way, because she was slowly beginning to doze off. Her drowsy expression was so adorable. I couldn't help but smile. Yashin, did you just laugh? And Nanami-san rubbed her eyes like a cat, pouting as she spoke. I wasn't laughing. I just thought you looked sleepy. Did you not get enough sleep last night? When I'm leaning against you, I get sleepy because I feel safe, but I wanted to chat too, she moaned, cuddling up even closer. With her softness pressed up against me like that, I felt a little bit nervous. Of everything we'd done so far, this was the one thing I couldn't get used to. Nanami-san, there may not be many people around. This is still the school rooftop, but she didn't seem to mind at all. She was acting like she wanted me to spoil her more, as if trying to make up for having had our moment interrupted by someone before now. Still looking half asleep and wholly vulnerable, Nanami-san spoke up again. Come to think of it, do you like animals, Yashin? Animals? Animals I like, ha. Looking at Nanami-san right now makes me think of maybe cats. I'd thought that about her earlier too. With that sleepy expression of hers, she looked just like a curled-up cat, her little hands suggestive of paws. Cats, how? She asked thoughtfully before falling silent. Given the peace of the situation, I never could have expected what she did next. Meow. War. Nanami-san had brought her lips up closer and meowed softly into my ear. It was just for a moment, loud enough only for me to hear, but it was definitely the meow of a cat. When I blinked at her in shock, Nanami-san looked sleepily back at me and whispered, I want meow attention, whether she couldn't speak clearly because she was sleepy or because of her class act cat act for attention I couldn't quite decide. Sign up for our mailing list at J Novel Club to hear about new releases. Newsletter, and you can read the latest chapters like Vol. 2 of this series by becoming a J Novel Club member. J Novel Club membership copyright and introverts hiccups. This Gyaro is head over heels for me. Volume 1 by Yuichi, translated by Satoko Kakihara, edited by Stephanie Buck. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual events, locales, or persons, living or dead, is coincidental. Copyright 2021 Yuichi Illustrations. Copyright 2021 Kaidachisarku. Cover illustration by Kaidachisarku. All rights reserved. Original Japanese edition published in 2021 by Hobby Japan. This English edition is published by arrangement with Hobby Japan. Tokyo English translation. Copyright 2022 J Novel Club LLC. All rights reserved. In accordance with the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, the scanning, uploading, and electronic sharing of any part of this book without the permission of the publisher is unlawful piracy and theft of the author's intellectual property. J Novel Club LLC jnovel.club. The publisher is not responsible for websites or their content that are not owned by the publisher. Ebook Edition 1.0, December 2022 Premium Ebook,